how to manage your business numbers, and the tool I'm going to focus on today is Xero. So the next thing I'm going to move on to is what's called payment gateways. You know, you want to make life easier for people to actually pay you. You know, because at the end of the day, you can do a massive sale, and if you don't get paid, it's a complete waste of time. So I'll just show you a couple of things. So the first thing I'm going to show you is what's called adding a payment gateway. So that means if someone gets an invoice, instead of just transferring the money to your bank account, they can actually click on something and pay by credit card. So we'll just go into settings and we'll go invoice settings. You see here where it's got payment services. So what we've got here is, you know, we're able to hook up PayPal. We've got Stripe hooked up, so you can actually accept credit cards. You can accept direct debits, where if you're on a recurring monthly fee, you can you know, every time an invoice is issued, the money can then be taken out of the client's bank account. So Xero recommends go cardless, but you don't have to use go cardless. But, you know, these things that are mentioned, like such as Stripe and go cardless, is that Xero is actually, you know, they're the easiest to connect to Xero, but there's a lot of other providers which you can integrate to Xero. So don't think you're tied into using any of these providers. That's just the ones that are best to use for Xero. So say, for example, we want to accept credit card payments powered by Stripe. So we just go add another. So what that does is, you know, you've got your Stripe account settings. So then you just connect to Stripe. So what I'll do, get started. So this takes you through to go cardless. If you've already got a go cardless account, you can just log in from here. But if you're totally new and never used it, you can just go connect. I was going to show you how to connect with Stripe, but because I've already got Stripe connected, it's not letting me do it. But yeah, kind of long story short, if you just click on add another, you can either from here log into your existing Stripe account, or you can actually set up a new Stripe. So it lets you, it's a step-by-step, and then you attach it to the invoice. So I'll just show you. So we'll go back into invoice settings. So you see here where it's got, you know, for example, the standard invoice, how it's got options, and we're going to edit. So what we need to do to make sure this works, you see where it's got payment services, credit card. So you need to make sure it's got Stripe. So this is the next step you have to do before you finalise this, is to ensure that it actually shows up on the invoice. So if it doesn't show up on the invoice, it's not a lot of use to you. So what we're going to do, I'll show you an example of what an invoice looks like for a customer. So the customer, when they open this invoice, they've got this option, view and pay online now. So if a client was to click on this and they click on pay now, they've got the option whether they pay by credit or debit card or PayPal. So if I click on this, all the client has to do is enter their credit card details, click on this, and straight away the invoice will show up as paid, and then a few days later the money will actually go into your bank account. So you can imagine the key to getting paid via your customers is, you know, you've got to make it as easy as possible for customers to pay you. Like, having convenience for a customer to pay you is absolute gold. Because if you just have your bank account details, if client thinks, oh yeah, I'll pay this next time I log into my bank account, this could be a week later, but all they have to do is just put out their credit card. Because as soon as that customer clicks on the pay now button, straight away that payment is allocated against the relevant invoice, so that invoice is no longer showing up as outstanding. You can either absorb the fees yourself, or you can actually on-charge it to the client, which most people, there's nothing wrong with on-charging credit card fees to a client. Most people expect to pay a fee for the convenience. It opens up the window. It's generally a bottom fine print. This will attract fees of $2.50 or like if someone's paying you $2,000, the fees will be quite substantial.
Yes.
What I would advise is bank accounts are a lot cheaper. Like direct debit fees on a bank account are about, I don't know, $1, where credit card fees are a percentage. PayPal is quite expensive. I'm not a huge fan of pay. I offer it, because some people, because I like, I'd rather get paid quickly and absorb the odd fee than drag it out. But yeah, I prefer, it's more expensive than Stripe. PayPal fees are quite expensive. PayPal's about a week. I don't use PayPal very often. It's very rare that I use PayPal. I think in 5 years, I think I've only ever had 2 people pay me via PayPal, which I'm not upset about. Stripe takes about 3 days, which is pretty, which I think is pretty good. I think 2 or 3 days is quite reasonable. Anything longer than 3 days, in my opinion, isn't acceptable. Like, some might drag out 7 or 8 days or some 10 days, and I just think, no, that's completely wrong. The first time I used Stripe, it took about 7 days. I think it took about a week. And then after that, I think it was about 3 days. Yeah, so we'll just move on from that. So we'll go into the next part is, I think people mentioned about, getting people to pay you. So if people aren't paying by credit card, if you've actually sent an invoice out and they've got 7 days to pay you, you want them to pay you within 7 days. So what can sometimes happen is, people get busy. We're all human, they forget. And sometimes we can get busy and forget to remind people. So a tool that Xero's got is what's called automated invoice reminders. So if we go into settings and we go back into invoice settings, okay, options 2. So you see where it's got invoice reminders. So if you click on that. So what you can do, if we tick this box, we can tell Xero to automatically send an email to a client if their invoice is 7 days overdue. And we can always edit, we can choose whatever days, and we can customise this standard email as well. And we can do it again at 14 days, 21 days, and we can just add, so we get 4 different reminders at various intervals. So it saved it saved me quite a few times where I don't always have time to remind people to pay, but, the fact that someone's received an email, they've realised, oh, I've got to pay. And you can also click this box to say, I don't want to send reminders for amounts owing under a certain amount. So if it's a really piddly amount, you don't want to send a stern email to it. Not that these emails are stern, you can word them any way you like, but it's just an extra automated time saver. It saves you from thinking about it. The fact that you can send an invoice, and if a customer doesn't pay on time, they automatically get reminded. So that's, oh, here we go. Yes, you're right. So send an invoice due in, if an invoice is due in 3 days or... So yes, you're right. You can actually absolutely do this, and you can word this any way you like. You can be as harsh or as soft as you like. So I'd suggest the early emails just be a gentle reminder, and the later emails just get a little bit sterner. And then finally, after repeated attempts, if they don't pay, don't be afraid to bring in debt collectors, because you've done the work. You have every right to expect to be paid. And I think a question was asked from someone about how to approach clients about getting their bills paid. So I think this is a good first step, just something like this. And then if after 1 or 2 of these emails, you've heard nothing, pick up the phone, have a chat to them. They might genuinely be having issues. Say, look, is there a reason you're not paying? Is there something wrong with the invoice? Or are you having financial difficulties? You could possibly, come into some sort of arrangement with them, or if they're still, giving you the runaround, then just send them to debt collection to a point like you've done everything you can. that's probably the best practice, is gentle at first and then get a bit sterner as time goes on. Does that